I carefully navigated the evening traffic across London toward the Marriott Hotel. My mind was racing with thoughts of the impending situation and its consequences. No matter what happened tonight, the lives of at least 3 people would be forever changed. My name is Sal, short for Salvatore, of Italian descent. My parents moved to the UK in the late 1960s and started an Italian restaurant, the cornerstone of our close-knit family. Although we no longer live together, family gatherings are always crowded, and missing one means enduring my grandmother's disapproving stares. I married Connie 7 years ago. Despite a fun relationship, it lacked the foundation for the long term. My grandmother never liked Connie, always watching her with distrust and warning me to be cautious. Her words echoed in my mind as I drove through London's dense traffic. A month ago, I discovered Connie was cheating on me for the past 6 months. I found out when she carelessly left a hotel pen in her purse. This tiny mistake led me to uncover her infidelity. I decided to investigate discreetly. We often met with friends, Carlo and Joanna and Phil and Terry, at a cozy restaurant run by my cousin. Carlo, like an older brother to me, had a colorful past but was always kind and protective. His wife Joanna was feisty and the only person he feared. Our evenings were usually enjoyable. But tonight, everything felt different as I headed toward the hotel, knowing the truth about Connie and bracing for the fallout. I met Phil at work, and we hit it off. We were the same age with similar outlooks on life. We played golf together occasionally and socialized with his wife Terry at the golf club. Terry and Connie got along well, often spending days shopping together. Phil was always warm and friendly, but Terry seemed aloof at times, especially lately. Then she'd snap out of it and rejoin the group. I mentioned it to Connie, but she dismissed it as woman problems. One evening, we were sipping cocktails in the lounge when Carlo and Joanna arrived. We greeted each other warmly, and the waiter brought fresh drinks. Connie was always impressed with the excellent service we received. My cousin had our usual corner table ready, secluded but facing the door, as Carlo always insisted. We didn't question it. "Why are Phil and Terry coming?" Joanna asked Connie. "I spoke to her earlier. They're definitely coming, but they might be a little late since Phil isn't home yet." Carlo glanced at the women, then at me, and shook his head slightly. I decided to ask him about it later. Phil and Terry arrived looking flushed, and Carlo gave them a long, impassive stare. Something was off. We sat down and chatted about work and family. After lunch, we moved to the lounge. The girls danced while we sipped cocktails and talked sports. When the music slowed, we joined them on the dance floor. Connie pressed against me, hinting at more to come later. Carlo and Joanna returned to the table, but Phil and Terry seemed stiff. "Is everything okay with those two?" I whispered to Connie. "Yeah, I guess so." But Terry didn't say anything. Connie tried to distract me as we walked back to the table. Carlo smiled at me, and Joanna giggled. Phil and Terry returned, and Terry quickly went to the bathroom, leading the other women to follow. "Everything all right, Phil?" Carlo asked coolly. "Yeah, sure, no problem." But his body language said otherwise. When the women returned, Terry's body language gave her away. Connie's glance confirmed my suspicions. We tried to ignore the tension. Carlo nudged me and winked. He knew something. After a few more dances, my cousin called a cab. I noticed Connie and Phil having an animated conversation. Another oddity of the evening. "So, what's up with Phil and Terry?" I asked Connie bluntly. "Nothing, they're fine." She smiled and looked out the window. I sensed something was wrong, but decided to talk to Carlo the next morning. That night, Connie was unusually passionate, declaring her love for me. "I love you too, baby. Don't ever forget that. You're my wife. No one will take you away from me, and I'll never give you a reason to." I hugged her tightly and kissed her. As we fell asleep, I lay staring at the ceiling, remembering the strange events of the evening. I should call Carlo first thing in the morning. Connie left early for the gym. I drank glass after glass of orange juice to clear my head. I Googled the hotel name from the pen in her purse. It was across London, posh with easy parking. I noted the contact info, but found no online booking history. The history had been wiped clean. Paranoia set in, and I called Carlo. "Carlo, it's Sal. What's going on with Phil and Terry? Should I be worried?" "It seems like you know something," I said, concern evident in my voice. "Sal, meet me at my brother's bar mid-afternoon. I'll tell you everything in person, not over the phone," Carlo responded, his tone serious. "Of course, I'll be there," I agreed quickly. "And come alone, okay?" he added, making the situation seem even more dire. "Yes, I understand," I replied, feeling a knot form in my stomach. The call ended, leaving me with a sense of impending doom. I sat staring at the phone, anxiety churning in my stomach. An hour later, Connie walked in, looking refreshed from her workout. "Good workout?" I asked, trying to sound casual. "Yeah, it was great. I needed that," she said, tossing her purse and gym bag aside. "I'm going to see Carlo. He wants to talk about something, but it won't take long," I informed her, attempting to mask my nervousness. "What does he want, Sal? He still creeps me out," she replied, a hint of distrust in her voice. "He's a good guy, but don't underestimate him. I won't be long, okay?" I assured her, though I wasn't sure if I believed it myself. Connie gave me a look I couldn't read. I drove slowly to Carlo's brother's bar, a trendy, inconspicuous place. Carlo opened the door, checking to see if I was followed. "Okay, Carlo, what's going on?" "Your call worried me, and I don't know what to think," I said as soon as I saw him. He looked me in the eye and said, "Follow me." We went to an office in the back. He closed the door and we sat down. "Sal, you're like family to me. I promised your father I'd always take care of you. What I'm going to tell you will hurt, but you need to hear it," Carlo began, his eyes showing pain. My heart raced, sensing it had to do with my wife. Carlo pulled a large envelope from the desk and handed it to me. I knew it held something that would change my life. "Is it bad?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. He nodded, his eyes full of sympathy. "Sal, I'm here for you, okay?" he said, lifting his hand. I took the envelope and opened it. Inside were photos, my wife with another man in a cheap hotel and on our bed. Tears blurred my vision as I looked at Carlo. "How did you find out? Who is he?" I demanded, shocked and angry. "Sal, a few weeks ago I heard rumors about Connie. I didn't have proof until recently. A friend saw her with this man in South London. They were too close for comfort, and he recognized her," Carlo explained. "And who is Tony Drew?" I asked, trying to process the information. "He's Phil's brother. You must know him," Carlo replied. I was stunned as the pieces fell into place. Phil, Connie, Terry. "I found a pen from a London hotel. Is it there?" I asked, hoping for more details. "Yeah. Sal, I'm sorry, but my guy followed them last week while you were out of town. Their first meeting happened when you weren't home," Carlo continued. I clenched my fists tightly. "I'm going to eliminate that cretin," I growled, anger boiling over. "Easy, Sal, it's not worth it." "Divorce her and let me deal with him," Carlo advised. "No, Carlo, I have to handle it myself. He needs to know it was me." "Do you know where he lives and works?" I insisted, determined. "All the info is in the envelope. Don't do anything rash. We need to plan this carefully. He's divorced, no kids, but he likes married women. He'll regret getting involved with your wife," Carlo said, his eyes turning cold. "What's your plan?" I asked, trying to calm down. He poured me a whiskey. "How well do you get along with Phil? He seemed off in the restaurant with Terry and your wife. I think he knows what's going on. Can you still call him a friend?" Carlo inquired. I wondered if his wife was involved too. Carlo continued, "We need to act soon, but first see a lawyer. Do you want to try to make up with her? If it was an isolated incident, maybe, but seeing this, I can't forgive or forget." "I need to think about this, Carlo. I want them both to suffer," I said, my mind swirling with thoughts of revenge. He handed me a business card. "Divorce lawyer. He's ruthless. I've briefed him on your situation. Call him and he'll take care of it. Plus, he's a cousin." He laughed and I managed to smile. We planned our next steps for an hour. I called Cousin Carlo and he sprang into action. We agreed to wait until everything was ready. I needed to find out how involved Phil and Terry were. I drove home, my mind racing. When I arrived, the house was silent. Connie was gone. A note on the kitchen table read, "I'll see Terry later. Love you." I crumpled it and threw it away. I called Carlo. "She's gone to Terry's, but I know she's with Phil. Our guy is watching her," Carlo informed me over the phone. "Okay, so where's Terry then? Let me know if anything comes up," I responded. 3 hours later, Connie came home. "Hey, love, how was your day?" I asked as she stormed in, kissed my cheek, and headed for the kitchen. "It was fine. Carlo and I are working on a plan," she replied, waiting for more details. I didn't offer any. "It's a personal matter with a cousin. He thinks his wife is cheating and needs advice," I explained, smiling as I noticed her trying to hide a casual smile. "I'm sure it'll work out," she said, looking away, a bit upset. The rest of the weekend dragged on. I couldn't bring myself to be physically engaged with her, haunted by the images Carlo had shown me of her and Tony. She was a better liar and actress than I ever imagined. On Sunday night, she came over, clearly wanting to have some fun. "Sal, I need us to spend this night together. I know you've been busy, but I need you now, please," she whimpered. We made love, but afterward she looked shocked. "What's wrong, Sal? We've never done this before," she said. "I just wanted to make sure you were mine. I love you, Connie, and I don't want to lose you," I replied, my heart heavy. "You won't lose me, silly," she said with a smile, but her words tore at my heart. The image of her with Tony was seared into my mind. We lay quietly, each with our thoughts. I slipped out of bed when she fell asleep and went downstairs. I poured a large glass of JD and checked the computer. A message from Carlo appeared. "All the wheels are turning here just as we discussed," he had written. Okay, I thought. All I need to do now is arrange a sleepover for Wednesday. I sent him a text back. Okay. An hour later, I crawled back into bed but couldn't sleep. I finally dozed off, getting only a few hours of restless sleep. In the morning, I showered and went downstairs. Connie greeted me with a smile, breakfast, coffee, and toast. She moved cautiously, noticing my gaze. "You were a little wild last night, lover. I don't think I'll be ready for another round for a few days," she said, kissing me again. "It's okay," I smiled through a coughing fit. She sipped her coffee. "I need to go to Leeds on Wednesday. Do you mind?" she asked. "Just for one night?" I inquired. "Yes, but I won't be back until late Thursday," she explained. "Does this have something to do with Carlo?" she asked. "Yes, it's about that cousin I mentioned. He might need some support," I lied smoothly. "Carlo gives me the creeps. I'm not sure what kind of support he could offer," she said with a shiver. "You'd be surprised, but you don't want to be on his bad side," I warned. Her face went pale, but I could see she was still planning something. I looked at my watch and got up to leave. "I gotta go, honey. Be a good girl while I'm gone," I said, kissing her head and leaving. I met the lawyer and spent an hour going over options and signing papers. He confirmed everything would be ready by Wednesday afternoon. I transferred all the money from our savings to a new account in my name and sent a large sum to Carlo. I emptied our safe deposit box and opened a new account at another bank. I stopped her allowance, knowing she'd be in trouble by the end of the month. Satisfied, I went to my office and handled my routine business. My secretary, Sadie, was a great help, and I knew she could manage things without me. I caught her concerned gaze on me. I sighed and turned to face her. I had known her for almost 5 years, and she had always been professional and fiercely loyal. She had been polite with Connie, but there was some tension. I was sure Connie had mentioned her attitude, but I always brushed it off. Looking at her concerned face and piercing blue eyes, I knew I had to say something. My insides were churning, and she could tell. I took a deep breath, trying to collect my thoughts and control my emotions. "Sadie, there might be interruptions this week. If I'm not around, you know how to keep things running. Okay?" I said. "Yes, boss. Anything I can help with?" she asked, sensing my distress. "Connie's playing me," I confessed, unable to hold it in any longer. "You're joking! Oh my God, Sal, this is awful! Are you sure?" she exclaimed, eyes wide with shock. I nodded slowly. She saw my tears and closed the door. She hugged me tightly. Standing next to her, I felt a love I was missing at home. I sobbed for the first time since finding out, and she held me until I pulled myself together. She took my face in her hands and looked into my eyes. "Sal, you're a good person. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise." "What are you going to do?" Sadie asked, her voice filled with concern and support. "I'm going to get a divorce and deal with that cretin," I said, my resolve hardening. "I understand, but be careful, Sal. Don't do anything stupid," she cautioned. Sadie was worth her weight in gold. She handled everything perfectly, making her husband a lucky man. At home, Connie and I were watching TV when the phone rang. She answered it in the hallway, talking quietly. After 5 minutes, she returned. "What's wrong?" I asked. "Oh, nothing. Just Terry talking about fighting with Phil again. It's driving me crazy," she replied. "Are they in big trouble?" "Phil never mentioned it," I said, watching her face for clues. "I think it's nothing. They'll figure it out," she responded, trying to sound nonchalant. "Is that what was going on in the restaurant?" I asked. Connie looked nervous. She didn't know I had noticed something between them. "Yeah, they had a fight before going out," she admitted. "Is that what you were doing with Phil?" I pressed. She flinched. "Terry asked me to talk to Phil," she explained. "So what was that about, Connie? Maybe I can help," I suggested. "It's all right, Sal. I'm sure they've sorted it out by now," she said dismissively. "Good. I don't like the thought of a friend's marriage in trouble. He's not cheating, is he?" I probed further. No, nothing like that," she replied, her face flushing. "So this is Terry playing a prank on himself?" I asked skeptically. "Look, Sal, I don't know. Let's mind our own business," she snorted. "I think so too. But I might mention it to Phil when I see him," I said, ending the conversation as I looked at the TV again. Her eyes narrowed. A few minutes later, I asked casually, "So, if neither of them are cheating, and Terry asked you to talk to Phil, what was that about?" "Sal, leave him alone," she snapped, getting up and running out of the room. I sat back, realizing I had gotten under her skin. Tomorrow, I would drop in on Phil and Terry and disturb them a little. The next day, Tuesday, I got up early and was out the door as Connie came downstairs. I kissed her on the cheek. "I can't stop, my love. I need to get moving. Love you," I said. Connie watched in bewilderment as I disappeared, hearing my car speed off. She poured herself a cup of coffee, thinking about Tony. Everything had been fine until last week. She met Tony a few months ago when she was out with Terry. They were in a club with friends when he walked in. Seeing his sister-in-law, he approached and offered them all a drink. The girls smiled at the handsome guy. Terry noticed Tony and Connie looking into each other's eyes, and something flashed between them. "Stay away from Tony. He's a piece of crap. He even hit on me. He'll go after anyone, especially the married ones," Terry warned. "Don't worry, Terry. I have my own Sal, but he's smooth and good-looking. Weren't you tempted?" Connie asked. Terry shook her head. "One word, don't," Terry advised, sensing something behind her friend's eyes she didn't like. The rest of the evening was uneventful, but Tony gave Connie his number. Over the next few days, Tony called her, flirting and chatting. By the next party, Connie knew Tony would be there. They danced, and Tony seduced her with flattery and touches. Terry grabbed Connie's elbow, and she realized she had spent the entire evening with Tony. Terry reprimanded her, but Connie brushed it off, claiming nothing bad happened. Tony was confident he would get Connie sooner or later. In the following weeks, their calls and flirting intensified. When Terry canceled a night out, Tony convinced Connie to meet him alone. She agreed quickly, dressed as usual, but felt different. They had a hot evening, and Tony drove her to the Marriott. She panicked when she saw the time, hurried to get dressed, and asked Tony to take her home. She texted Sal, saying she was waiting for a cab. That night scared her, but Sal was asleep when she got home. She hoped everything would be fine by morning. For the next few weeks, Connie continued seeing Tony, both during nights out and during the day. During Sal's trip, she spent the night with Tony at the hotel. Terry guessed what Connie was up to and warned her to stop before getting caught. She fought with her husband, Phil, and asked him to press Tony to stop. Tony was dismissive, and Phil was torn between loyalty to his brother and Sal. Connie lashed out when Phil asked her to stop seeing Tony. The longer it went on, the harder it was to end it without causing serious problems. Connie knew it had to be over soon, but found the risk attractive. She decided tomorrow would be the last time, but she still had to convince Tony. By the time I walked in the door, it was late. I had been liquidating time all day, and the plans were set. The paperwork from the lawyer was in my car, and the official packet would be delivered by registered mail. Feeling tense, I poured a large drink of JD. Connie watched me as I took a big sip and poured another. I was distraught, and I could tell Connie was too. "Are you okay, Sal?" she asked. I took another sip of my JD before turning to face her. She looked scared and worried. "Just a rough day, love. I need a shower before I get ready to talk to Carlo tomorrow." I walked past her and went upstairs without kissing her. She didn't like the tense atmosphere and wondered what I meant by getting ready for tomorrow. Under the hot shower, tears streamed down my face. My marriage, my wife, my future, all messed up. After 30 minutes, I felt no better. My heart was breaking. I dried off, got dressed, and headed downstairs. Connie noticed my game face and seemed to relax a bit. "What's for dinner?" I asked casually. "Let's order something. I don't feel like cooking." "Chinese okay?" "Yeah, that sounds nice." While we waited for the food, we sat in the living room, avoiding confrontation. Dinner was quiet, almost tense. "What time do you have to go in the morning?" she asked casually. "Around 9. We have an 11 o'clock flight, so no rush. It'll be good to finally meet Cousin Carlo." It was nearly 10 p.m., and she glanced at her watch. "I need to turn in. Long day tomorrow." I drained my glass, set it down, and looked at her. There was a flicker of sadness in her eyes. She closed the door between us. "I've always loved you, Connie," I said, hugging her tightly. She felt my sadness and guilt. Tomorrow it would all be over, she thought, and then she could make it up to me. I was thinking the same thing. I woke up to the smell of freshly brewed coffee, a scent that always brought back memories of my grandmother's house. Connie handed me a large mug, and I kissed her cheek before taking a sip. We ate in silence, both avoiding each other's gaze. The tension was palpable. I glanced at my watch. "I have to go now. I need to pick up Carlo." I stood, set my cup down, and took a deep breath to suppress a sob. Connie was tense and trying to remain calm. She must know that I know. "Have a safe trip and come back soon, Sal," she said, as I gave her a polite kiss on the forehead. I grabbed my overnight bag, started the car, and drove away without looking back, tears brimming in my eyes. After a few minutes, Connie picked up the phone. "He's gone. Are you ready for tonight?" "Oh yeah, baby, definitely. Phil's been getting on my nerves, but I told him to back off." "Well, that won't stop us. Room 415, same as before. I'll see you at 8, okay?" "Okay, got it. I'll call you later." They hung up, and the man smiled, typing a message with the details of their date. Carlo saw the message and looked grimly at me. "Are you sure you want to do this, Sal? You know how this will end," Carlo said, concerned. "Carlo, I love that woman in a way I never will again. I gave her everything, and I can't let that go. I have to make her realize what she's done and make her pay, just like her lover. I have to do it. Do you understand?" Carlo saw the pain in Sal's eyes and felt it in his words. He pulled a revolver from his desk and placed it in front of Sal. "We'll make him pay. You need the weapon to make your point," Carlo said. Sal nodded, staring at the weapon. Carlo added a handful of shell casings to the table. "Load it, Sal. Make it real in your mind," Carlo urged. Sal picked up the weapon, memories flooding back. He loaded it with ease and set it down. "What's next, Sal?" Carlo asked. Sal replied, "Let's eat, and I'll tell you everything. I might call Terry and Phil later to see what they know and why they didn't tell me." "I'd leave it alone," Carlo advised. "If you get caught now, you'll give the police motive. There will be time later." They walked to a bar where Carlo introduced Sal to his brother, Alfredo. "Nice to meet you, Sal," Alfredo said, shaking his hand. They chatted until a waitress brought their food. She smiled at Sal and introduced herself as Alicia, Carlo's niece. "Nice to meet you, Sal. My uncle's told me a lot about you," she said. "Alfredo, it's a pleasure to meet your family. Family is everything," Sal said. Lunch passed leisurely. Despite the serious conversation, Sal felt calm and safe. His phone rang around 3 in the afternoon. It was Connie. "Hi, Connie. How are you?" Sal asked. "Just checking on you. How's Carlo?" she inquired. "We're fine, having a late lunch. What are your plans for tonight?" Sal asked, testing her. "I'm seeing Terry. Everything's fine," she lied smoothly. "Good. Say hi to Terry. Love you," Sal replied, keeping his voice steady. "Love you too. Bye, baby," Connie said before hanging up. When Sal hung up, Carlo saw both pain and anger in his eyes. "Okay, Sal?" Carlo asked, concerned. "Yeah, we're ready," Sal replied, his voice cold. They toasted and finished their drinks. "Let's meet the guys," Carlo said, leading the way. They found 4 men in the private quarters. Carlo introduced them as his trusted friends. "These guys won't let you down," Carlo assured Sal. Sal noticed their steely eyes and felt a shiver. "Still want this?" Sal asked Carlo coldly. "Yes, I need it," Carlo confirmed. "Is everything ready?" Sal asked the men. "Everything checked out. Cars, van access, evacuation routes. We're ready for the next 30 minutes, one of the men replied. The plan was reviewed until everyone was confident it was ready. I felt their eyes on me as I paced, tense and angry. The thought of Connie meeting Tony was gut-wrenching. I wanted to hit something. Carlo stepped in front of me and hugged me. "Easy, Sal. We'll hit the road soon. It'll get easier," he reassured me. Frustration, anger, and betrayal brought tears to my eyes. Carlo stayed by my side, and I felt the men's support. For the next hour, they talked to me, preparing me for my part. A phone call interrupted us. Carlo answered. "Yeah," he said. Everyone listened intently. "Okay, we'll start moving in 5 minutes." It was already 8 p.m. The men left to bring the van closer. Carlo saw my anxiety. "Sal, last chance. You don't have to do this," he offered. "I need to teach him a lesson he'll never forget," I insisted. "Good man," Carlo said, clapping my shoulder as we left and got into the prepared Mercedes. We parked about 200 yards from the hotel. Around 9 p.m., Carlo received a text. "They've arrived," he read out loud. My heart ached. Carlo kept his hand on my shoulder to ground me. "Let's stick to the plan, Sal," he reminded me. I nodded. We had to wait another hour. Another text came. "The guys are here and in place." Carlo smiled nervously. We needed to get in and out discreetly. We discussed the plan again, and Carlo reminded me to stay calm. "We don't want a riot because of those two, okay?" His cold eyes met mine. I knew not to mess this up. "All right, Carlo, I won't shoot him in bed. I'm not that stupid," I smirked. He smacked my head lightly. "Don't lie to me, Sal. This is serious. Get a grip," he scolded. We sat in silence until another message popped up. "We're in. Exit secured." Carlo checked the time. It was almost time. His heart and breathing quickened. He pulled brass knuckles from the glove compartment and opened the car door. "Okay, let's go," he said, and we moved towards the hotel with grim determination. I followed Carlo into the hotel lobby. We walked straight to the elevators, trying to act casual but avoiding eye contact. I was tense. When the elevator arrived, we stepped aside for a couple to exit, then got in. We rode up silently to the 4th floor. My heart raced as we reached room 415. I knew my wife was inside with another man. 4 guys in hotel uniforms appeared with a laundry cart. They wore wool hats and had a taser. Carlo pointed out the neutralized security cameras, giving us 5 minutes. One guy used a key card to unlock the door. We moved quickly down the hallway to the bedroom. I saw my wife's lingerie on the floor. My chest tightened. The guys entered the bedroom first. Tony turned just as the taser shot him. He twitched and collapsed on Connie. The men pulled him off and stuffed him into the laundry cart. Connie screamed but was quickly gagged. In less than a minute, Tony was gone. Connie was bound with duct tape. I turned on the overhead light and entered the room, weapon in hand. She squirmed and cried. I pointed the weapon at her face, letting her fear build. Carlo watched me closely, worried I'd snap. I pulled the trigger, but Carlo grabbed my hand, stopping me. Connie wet herself in terror. Carlo took the weapon, furious but laughing. Connie shook with fear and shock, tears streaming. I pulled off my mask. She gasped and passed out. Carlo checked his phone. It was time to leave. We slipped down the stairs and exited the back of the hotel. In the car, we drove in silence, each lost in thought, heading for the meeting place. "You took the bullets out, you cretin. I thought you'd lost it for a second," Carlo said, glaring at me. I grinned. "I wasn't going down for liquidating her, just wanted to scare her. She'll get the message when she sees Tony. The guys will handle him." "No need to get your hands dirty, Sal. He'll remember." "I need to be sure," I replied, staring ahead as we walked through the dark streets. We entered the bar where Alfredo was waiting. It was almost 1 a.m. He poured us drinks and we sat by the fireplace. As the adrenaline faded, we started feeling human again. The past few hours had been a blur of pain and anger. Now, in the warmth, we ate in silence. Carlo's phone beeped and he smiled at me. "It's done. The boys are on their way," Carlo announced. "I can't thank them enough. I'll never forget this night," I said, a mix of gratitude and sorrow in my voice. "Sal, shut up. It's over. You have other battles now. Deal with her. You don't have to please me," Carlo responded firmly. "Of course. I understand," I replied, remembering leaving Connie at the hotel. How would she get home? Would she confess? Doubtful. We had rooms ready. I felt suddenly exhausted as Alfredo showed me to mine. I collapsed on the bed, unable to sleep as I replayed the night's events and thought about Connie. I was sad and disgusted. I had loved her so much, but now it was over. I had the divorce papers. She was supposed to deliver them today. By the time I got home, she'd know what I knew. But what if she didn't go home? She might go to Terry's. I'd better reroute the papers there. After about 7 hours, Alicia woke me with coffee. "It's lunchtime, Sal. You have 30 minutes, Carlo said. "You have an afternoon flight. Get up. Your clothes are on the dresser." She left. I got dressed and looked in the mirror. I was different. Last night, I almost eliminated a man and watched him get led to his end of life. I felt nothing, no regrets. Tony deserved it. I joined the others at the table. We ate, chatted, and laughed. Soon, it was time to leave. We packed up and drove away. I waved to the faces watching us go. Their concern was comforting. I promised myself to return soon. I drove home slowly, feeling a growing dread. My anger was gone, replaced by a love for my wife. I dropped Carlo off, and Joanna hugged him like newlyweds. She hugged me tightly, too. "Sal, it's going to be okay. There's a tomorrow for you. Things will be tough for a while, but trust me, it will be okay," she said gently. I couldn't speak, but Carlo hugged me, and I headed home to face Connie. "Call me later, Sal," Carlo said. I nodded and drove off, feeling empty. I unlocked the door and went inside. The house was warm but not cozy, and it was silent. I checked the living room and kitchen. Nothing. It was 6 a.m. Connie should have been home unless she was trying to save our marriage. I checked my phone. No calls or messages. I sank into a chair. "What a goddamn anticlimax," I muttered as my anger began to rise. I saw a picture of Connie and me, felt a surge of rage, and threw it across the room. The frame punched through the wall and the glass shattered. "Screw you!" I shouted. As I was breathing hard, the phone rang. I grabbed it. "Hello?" I yelled into the receiver. "Is that you, Sal?" a trembling voice asked. Yes, what do you want? I replied angrily. It's Terry, Sal. Yes, Terry. Sorry for the timing. What can I do for you? I tried to calm down. It's Connie. She's here and in bad shape. She doesn't want to go home, thinks you might hurt her. She shouldn't drive, Terry said, her voice full of concern. Is she there? I interrupted. Yes. Ask her to talk to me. If she won't, let me know. Then ask her what happened, I instructed. I heard some mumbling and then louder voices in the background. Terry returned to the phone. She won't talk, Sal. I'm worried about her, Terry said, her voice strained. Be patient. Tell her I'll pick her up, I replied firmly. Terry relayed my words and I heard Connie scream in the background. Sal, I don't know what to say, Terry said, sounding distressed. It's okay, I responded, trying to steady my emotions. What do you mean? Terry asked, confused. I know all about it, Terry. Oh my God, Terry whispered, clearly shocked. I heard Terry relay my words to Connie, followed by more sobbing and screaming. Sal, I'm sorry, Terry said, her voice breaking. Me too, Terry. I know about the girls' nights out and how you and Phil fought about it, I revealed, my voice tinged with bitterness. She gasped. Oh God, no. Yes, I know. And I'll make sure the guy who did this pays, I said, my resolve hardening. Sal, I'm sorry. Phil and I tried to stop them. We should have told you, but we were in a bad situation. Terry spoke quickly, her voice filled with regret. I understand, Terry. Just make sure she stays there until I arrive, I instructed. I will. Be careful, Sal, Terry said, her voice softening. I will. See you soon, I replied before hanging up, my mind already racing with the next steps. Terry, I don't blame you or Phil. I'm just sad you didn't tell me sooner. Our friendship is damaged. Tell Connie I'm not coming to pick her up. Her things will be packed and ready for pickup, or they'll go in the trash. She doesn't live here anymore. She's getting some papers delivered today. I had them forwarded to your address. They should arrive any minute. Tell her to think carefully before doing anything. Got it? Okay, Sal. I hung up the phone and exhaled slowly. The anger drained out of me, leaving nothing. I had said everything needed. I felt calm but empty. Alone. Maybe she had been gone for a while, and I just didn't notice. I missed her, hated her, and loved her. I replayed it all in my head, realizing I had been blind to the signs. Exhausted, I knew things were going to get worse before they got better. I'd have to confront her soon, but not now. I poured a glass of JD, let my mind go blank, and waited for sleep. I slept deeply, but woke up with a sore head and dry mouth. After a shower, I made coffee and sipped orange juice straight from the carton. As I waited for the coffee, the doorbell rang at 7:30. Hello? I answered, my voice rough with fatigue. Sal, it's Carlo. Are you okay? Didn't do anything stupid? Carlo's voice was filled with concern. I'm fine. Just a headache. She went to Terry and Phil's. I told her what I knew. It's all out now. Haven't heard from her since last night. She wasn't in great shape when she arrived, I explained, trying to keep my voice steady. Carlo laughed. No surprise. Things seem to be going okay. The package was delivered, but we won't hear for a day or two. The family sends regards. Got it. Talk soon, I said, ending the call. I poured coffee, clearing my head. I had a lot to do. Call the office, locksmith, bank. Although I didn't want to lose her, I couldn't stay with her after the betrayal. Just after 9, there was a knock on the door. I opened it to see Terry and Phil standing there. Sal, we came to apologize. Can we talk? Terry asked. I let them in and pointed to the living room. They sat on the couch and I settled into the chaise lounge. Okay, what do you want to say? I asked, my tone cold. Sal, we're very sorry, Phil began. I'm sorry too, Phil. Sorry that my friends couldn't tell me my wife left me for a stranger. I have a lot of regrets, I said, feeling anger rise in me again. Sal, we tried to tell her to stop. She's at our place now, still confused. Something bad happened before she came back, Terry pleaded. What do you mean, Terry? I had to leave while the paperwork was being prepared. I assume you mean something happened between her and Tony, I said, not revealing my involvement yet. We don't know. We haven't heard from my brother, Phil said. Connie mumbled something about being tied up and left at the hotel. Come on, Phil. She should have said more. Did that cretin do something to her? Not that I care. But if I ever see him again, he better regret it. Make sure he knows that, I warned, my voice cold and threatening. Phil and Terry stared at me, stunned by my rage. Phil, especially, was visibly shaken. How's Connie doing? She got the papers last night, right? I asked, trying to maintain control. Yes, Sal. She calmed down eventually. But when she was served food, she started up again. She was upset, angry, and scared, but she wouldn't say what happened, Terry explained, her voice filled with concern. Good, I thought. Maybe now she'll remember every night. Well, guys, I hate her for what she did. If she's in pain, good. She made her bed with that idiot so she can stay with him. I'm done with her, I said, my voice full of finality. They looked at me, speechless at my anger. Is there no way you can work things out, Sal? Terry pleaded, tears filling her eyes. She made a mistake. But you two are great together. Divorce is a big step. Please talk to her first. She deserves that. Terry's eyes showed genuine concern. I paused, knowing I'd have to talk to Connie eventually. Okay, I'll talk to her. But first, I want all her stuff gone. It'll just be her and me, and I'll call to let her know when and where. Are you okay with that? I said, setting my terms. Terry hugged me tightly while Phil looked around. That's more than she can expect. Yes, Sal, thank you. I'll tell her to expect your call. Please don't wait too long, Phil said, his voice sincere. Phil looked at me, sullen. Sal, my brother isn't creep. You should kick his rear. I wouldn't blame you. I watched out the window as the couple drove away. They quickly got in their car and drove off towards my soon-to-be ex-wife. I sat back and considered Terry's words. Of course, I needed to talk to Connie, but I needed to cool down a bit before I could trust that woman. Keeping her at arm's length, I poured more coffee, savoring the strong flavor as it filled another large mug. I grabbed my phone, called Sadie, and caught up with her. For the next half hour, I listened to Sadie talk about how well she was doing without me. What a woman. Once she finished, she started telling me about Connie. It felt like listening to my mom. Eventually, she ordered me to come to her house tonight for dinner with her and her husband, and by the time I hung up, my ears still buzzing, I was sure she was at least half Italian. The rest of the day was spent rearranging locks, bedrooms, clothes, photos, everything I could think of that could be trashed, packed, or destroyed. By the end of the day, my anger, though still raging, had subsided a bit. Exhausted from all the emotional trauma, tears flowed easily down my face. I realized I was probably walking away without talking to Connie, but subconsciously, I had already decided to dump her. Everything was ready. All that was left was to set up the final showdown, and I knew I would be as hurt as she was. God damn it, how could you do this to me? To us? I sat staring out the window, thinking about how my marriage was crumbling. My heart ached, and only pain kept my anger in check. I knew I should make the call, but as I sipped another JD, I decided I would do it in the morning. I was too tired today to go a few hard rounds with her. I wanted to be at ease when I did. I had another restless dream. The call came early in the morning again, just before 7:30. The phone rang, jolting my brain out of the half-dream I'd fallen into. Yeah? I asked, stretching. Sal, it's me, Phil. Listen, I just got a call from the hospital. My brother's been there for a few days now. He's been punched up pretty badly. He seems stable, but he's taken quite a punching. Both arms and legs are broken, and his balls are pretty well punched up. That's all I know. I hope you don't expect me to sympathize, Phil. As far as I'm concerned, he's lucky he didn't meet me. I would have finished the job. Mark my words. If I ever see him again, it won't be long before I do. Sal, I understand. I wouldn't blame you if you did, so I won't ask the question. He got what he deserved. You're a stand-up guy and a friend, and I'm sorry I wasn't as good a friend to you as you were to me. I know I can't undo what's done, but I thought you might want to know about Tony, that's all. Phil, it's not your fault. Remember that. It's just the way it is. Give my love to Terry. Bye and thanks. Sure. Bye? I hung up and stared out the window at the garden, which was peaceful with the occasional bird flocking to the bird table and eating the food I put out. Sitting on the chaise lounge and watching nature through the glass always calmed me down and helped me think, and today was no exception. I called Carlo on his cell phone to give him the news about Tony. He only snorted but noted that the job was well done. His guys did well and got the result they needed. He laughed when I listed Tony's injuries. Serious enough, but not life-threatening unless he did something stupid. Carlo said he could give him the appropriate message to behave, but I didn't think that was wise. I was sure Phil would convey my feelings, which would be better and safer. We left it at that, and I went back to looking out the window. As I sipped my second coffee of the day, the phone rang again, but I let it go to the answering machine. As I listened, I heard Connie's voice hesitantly leaving a message. Sal, please call me. We need to talk. I'm so sorry. I need to explain. I need you. I need to come home. I'm so sorry. There were sobs between the pleas. With each word, my heart sank as if it were being strangled in my chest. When the message ended, I found myself breathing heavily. I wanted to pick up the phone, but my hand wouldn't reach for it. Even the sound of that woman's voice still bugged me. I knew I would have to do it today, but I wanted her to wait so she wouldn't think I was answering her message. I wandered around the house for a couple more hours, and the house seemed empty and deserted. I looked around where Connie's things used to be. There were voids. I called Sadie and asked a couple of guys to come over with a van to move all her stuff. An hour later, the boxes and bags I had packed were stacked in the back of the van. As I watched the van pull away towards Connie, I knew that pretty soon my phone would buzz as she picked up her stuff, and the realization that she had screwed up would hit hard. It was a one-way trip. The phone rang again. It was Terry. "Sal, Connie's stuff has arrived. Just letting you know we've accepted it. The guys apparently dropped most of it off at the warehouse. Thanks for that, Sal. We only have the stuff you marked as personal. Connie is still in shock. I know she called you earlier. Could you talk to her or call her later?" "Put her on, Terry. Let's get this over with," I said, my voice heavy with frustration. I waited a few seconds before I heard her voice. "Hello?" came a frail voice to my ear. "Connie." "Oh my God, Sal, I'm so sorry." "I never meant to," she said, her voice trembling. "So you didn't think about the fact that you might get caught, huh?" I spat venomously. "Sal, she started. "Leave it, Connie. Now you have the answer to all those questions you didn't even think to ask yourself. All the time you were having fun with that lowlife," I interrupted, my anger boiling over. "Sal, can't we—" she tried again. "Do you really think you can tell me anything that will make everything okay? Well then, do your best. I'm all ears," I said sarcastically. "Can I come home and talk to you, please?" she pleaded, desperation in her voice. "Why, Connie? To explain how sorry you are? To try and patch up the mess you created? No, you stay right where you are. I'll let you know when and where we can talk, but you're not stepping foot in this house until I'm ready," I replied coldly. "Sal, I need to see you. I need to explain," she insisted. "You should have thought about that before you decided to destroy everything we had. I'll call you when I'm ready. Until then, don't try to contact me. Do you understand?" I said firmly. "Yes, Sal, I understand," she said, her voice barely a whisper. "Goodbye, Connie," I said, ending the call. I leaned back, feeling a mix of anger and relief. There was a long road ahead, but for now, I needed to clear my mind and prepare for the next steps. I thought for a few seconds, trying to regain control of my emotions. Her voice was bugging me, and I could feel my heart pounding out of my chest as if trying to break free. My breathing quickened as my mind fought for control. Finally, I took a deep breath. "Tonight, here at 7. Come or not, it's all the same to me. It's a one-time offer, and it's only valid until 5 minutes after 7. I'll listen, but I'm not promising anything." I heard her sigh at my rudeness and ended the conversation. I sat listening to her voice and could feel the pain in her voice. I wondered if she felt mine. I sat and reflected on my marriage and how happy I thought we were. Sure, we had our ups and downs, but I was sure we were happy and hadn't had anyone else before. That cretin. Then I thought about why I was so sure. Did I even know her? I hadn't suspected anything before, but that didn't mean she hadn't done it before. I felt confused again, trying to make sense of what I knew for sure and the black cloud looming over me representing all the things I didn't know for sure. The clock chimed in the hallway. I knew it was past 6. I listened to the chimes and they told me it was indeed 6:45. She, the woman, would be here soon, and I needed to control my emotions and prepare for what would surely be the last act of my marriage. The doorbell broke into my train of thought and shook me out of the fog of self-pity I'd fallen into. It crept up on me slowly as I tried not to think too deeply about what was ahead of me. I began to ask myself questions over and over again. Why? Why now? Freed from my gloomy thoughts, I took a step toward the door and swung it open. I saw Connie the first time I'd seen her since that night at the hotel. Her hair, though combed and neat, was pulled back, giving her face a rather gaunt look. There was very little makeup, further adding to the pallor of her face. Her shoulders seemed to slump and sag as she entered the lobby. I followed her and noticed that a few days make a difference when you are caught off guard, as she was. I watched her look around the living room, gasping, and then suppressing sobs as she noticed the gaps on the walls and in the room where the photos and memorabilia used to be. She looked at me with her hand over her mouth, tears in her eyes. "It's all gone," I said coldly. "If you look around the rest of the house, you'll see there are a lot of empty spaces." I paused before saying anything else. She looked at me again, tears rolling down her cheeks. "I didn't realize, Sal. I didn't mean for it to happen. I wasn't thinking," Connie said. her voice trembling with regret. "I know, but this is the result of your cheating, your infidelity, your extramarital lovemaking with another man. All of it is yours." "I hope you're satisfied," I replied, my words cutting through the air like knives. The words came out sincerely and venomously, each one hitting my soon-to-be ex-wife hard. She sat down on the couch and I poured her a strong vodka and tonic. Handing it to her, I remained emotionless. She sipped the drink, looking at me. I swirled the ice in my glass and taking a good sip, leaned back in my chair, looking at her. "Okay, Connie, let's hear what you have to say," I said, my tone cold and detached. "I'm sorry, Sal, I couldn't help it. I got in over my head and then it got addictive," she confessed, tears welling up in her eyes. "Connie, just so you know, I talked to Terry and Phil and they filled in the gaps in my knowledge. I know what and where and with whom. I just don't know why," I said, my voice rising with controlled anger. "I can't answer that question. It was so new and exciting. I guess I fell for his crap," she admitted, looking ashamed. "But you had fun with him, not once or even twice, but for weeks on end," I said, feeling my rage building again. I took a sip and a few deep breaths, trying to stay calm. She looked down at her feet. "I know I can't justify what I did, Sal. I was wrong. Is there any way we can get past this?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper. I dodged the question. "What about Tony? What happened to him? Where's the cretin?" I demanded. Connie fidgeted and finally looked up at me, eyes fixed into mine, defiant as she tried to figure out what to say. "We were caught in the hotel that night. There were people there, I think 5 or 6, but Tony was just taken. 1 minute he was there and then he was gone." "Did you set that up, Sal?" she asked, her voice shaking. I stared back at her, sipping my drink again, ignoring her question, though I wondered if she realized it was me in her face that night before she passed out. "It was horrible. They took him away and he disappeared. Then they tied me up and the man put a weapon to my head. I know he pulled the trigger, but at that moment I lost consciousness. I was terrified I was going to die. When I came to my senses, I was alone," she recounted, her voice breaking. She saw the smile on my face as I savored her discomfort. I watched as a shiver ran through her, and my eyes were locked on hers. "So, what happened to your lover?" I asked mockingly. "Sal, don't call him that. He's not my lover. Yes, I know I had lovemaking with him, but I have no feelings for him. I love you and only you," she pleaded, tears streaming down her face. "You love me so much that you've been having fun with this creep for weeks." Now she leaned back on the couch at my sudden and furious outburst. "So tell me why I should give you the time of day since you've already proven yourself to be a liar and a cheat. How do I know everything you say is true? How the hell do you expect me to believe a single word you say? Tell me." Tears streamed down her cheeks as she felt the depth of my anger for the first time. "So have you been communicating with your lover?" I asked again, emphasizing lover to make her uncomfortable, to provoke her. I wanted her to suffer like I had. She looked at me through her tears. "I haven't heard from him at all. All I know is he's in a hospital somewhere, and that's all Phil said. I don't want to hear anything about him. He ruined my life. I wish he was dead." "Well, I couldn't agree more," I smirked. I watched her face, sure she was furious about being caught and left to fend for herself. She had messed up, and now she was getting what she deserved. We sat in silence for a few minutes, watching each other, waiting for the right moment. I took my time, wary of unleashing my pent-up rage. I wanted to slap her, but had to stay in control. She looked around the living room, searching for a distraction. She sighed when she noticed our wedding picture missing from the mantel. As she stared at the empty spot, I met her gaze and glanced at the dent in the wall. To answer her question, she brought her hand to her mouth. She got up and moved around the room, noting each empty space. I watched her absorb the missing memories. Every trace of her seemed to have vanished from the first floor. She sank back onto the couch. "Sal, all is lost. Is there really no chance?" She looked at me, defeat in her eyes. I took a deep breath. "Connie, I loved you like no one else. What you did ripped my heart out and stomped on it. Being with that idiot was disrespectful and showed complete disregard for my feelings and those of our friends. You were seen openly with him in public. You don't need to tell me it was just lovemaking or I didn't want to hurt you. You did it, and now you're going to pay the price. Your lover has already started to pay for what he did, and rightly so. I will cripple him, but slowly. I'll destroy you just like you destroyed what we had. Connie, we're done. Finito. Now, I'm sorry. I haven't heard anything from you to make me change my mind. So if you sign the divorce papers, we can both move on with our lives." I don't want to see or hear from you anymore. I'm done with you. Now get out of my house, you cheating strumpet." She sat there in shock as my words hit her. She had really messed up, but right now, I didn't care about her. My anger would help me deal with her. She gathered herself and got up to leave. I followed her to the door. When she opened her car door, she looked back at me and muttered, "Sorry." I raised my hand, mimicking a weapon, and watched the recognition creep into her face. Click. She shrieked and nearly collapsed as she climbed into the car. I closed the door behind her.